Hello, my dear folks. Welcome to the show. My name is Jack Shaw with the East West Show with G&E TV, paying lots of attention to what's happening around us. As a matter of fact, we have scheduled this show for 2 weeks ago to talk about the death of poor guy Kelly Thomas out of Fullerton. In the time interval, something happened. San Bernardino County shooting, the massive shooting. We want to put them together to see if there's anything they are connected or not connected whatsoever. And we're talking about us, a whole body as a community. So with me today, I have the pleasure of having two big name attorneys visiting me. Number one, I have my good friend, we go back for more than 20 years, Mr. Scott Womath, an attorney, whose name sounds like as loud as thunder. I know at least your office is scattered all around Southern California, right?
It is now.
The next thing you need is that big billboard on the freeway. That's it.
That's it, and then we will have done everything.
You'll be national. You'll be national, right?
Yes, right.
Mr. Scott Womath, an attorney-in-law. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jack. Sure. I appreciate it.
And next to him is a wonderful young attorney who has just gotten married. Mm-hmm. Lucky him, he had married one of the beautiful girls I've ever seen. Well, lucky you. How did you? How come?
Just,
you guys come across that kind of
undeniable
girl.
charm, Jack.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how it
All
worked
right,
out.
And we may just we may flash the picture on the big screen because Justin Rodriguez. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here.
As a matter of fact, you both know we're not here talking about his marriage, right?
That's
we're
correct.
talking about, as a matter of fact, the other side of the story, which is sad.
Yes.
Right. And for that, we would like to invite our audience to join me in a little moment. We can't afford 3 minutes. Let's say do 10 seconds of a silence to those whose life were taken, please. Thank you. You know what had happened. You either learn a lesson from it, right? Or you go back into the back of the story to find more, right? All for the purpose of improving yourself, right? So, what's your first response? And what's your first response when you hear the story? When you heard that the first news break up? So, what exactly you were thinking about?
I mean, for myself, it was, I think, like most people, it's shock. Mm-hmm. You kind of hear about those things on the news and you just don't really believe it can happen so close, so locally here in California, in San Bernardino. And I think from shock, you go into immediate, maybe a little panic, sadness, all these things wrapped up in one, because there really are so many issues that come into this incident.
Sure. You know, Scott, 2 or 3 days have passed already, right?
Right.
Instead of being at that very moment, you have a set of mind of being shocked. And later, you tend to be more and more thinking about the inner logic, the inner connections, right? And lots of people say, giving comment about, give credit to the police responding about 4 minutes to get to the spot. And also within 19 minutes after, and the first batch of wounded being delivered to Loma Linda Hospital, right? So how do you feel about that quick response?
Well, I think that obviously we should be very happy and proud that even in a very serious situation like this, they were able to move quickly and efficiently. A very difficult situation. Of course, you feel a lot of concern about the whole thing. Concern about why it happened, what are the reasons it happened, and what are going to be the reactions and actions of people in the near future and in the long run. Because I think sometimes a serious event like this occurs, and sometimes people start to talk too early about things, knee-jerk reactions, I would call them. And I'm concerned about that type of thing. Because I don't think that serves the long-term purpose in, as you said, trying to learn from something.
Yeah, exactly. We recall even during the very early one or two news release, and there is a saying that they do not rule out about the connection of a terrorist attack, right, or their connection with terrorism. And now, until this moment, they still haven't ruled out yet. And this morning news had it that the woman had once sworn in and sworn her allegiance to serve for ISIS. So it's getting scary, and it's getting scarier at the moment. Right?
That's correct.
So
There's, I think, there's a lot of things at work in this particular incident. There's that connection with terrorism. We don't know to what extent, I think, at this point in the game. Certainly the investigation is continuing. And I think as the investigation continues, you're going to start to see a lot of these parts unravel, and we're going to get more information. I think that's why the authorities were very hesitant, because you don't want to overstate what the cause may have been when they didn't really have all the facts maybe that are available or that will become available after a reasonable investigation.
Scott, you just mentioned about it's still early, still premature to give any conclusion, right?
Well, yeah, I believe so, from what I can see. But of course, you know, certain things are always going to come to the front of your thinking in something like this. So this whole connection to terrorism is an immediate reaction or thought, and the whole issue of guns, gun control, and all of this comes up. And what I think it should lead to is a debate on various, I guess, analyses of gun control, lack of gun control. What is this? What is the Second Amendment? But I'm afraid to see a lot of polarization again, and just you look at a Facebook post and you see somebody taking one extreme position or another extreme position on either side. I don't think we're well served, you know, when that happens.
I'm very glad, as a matter of fact, you brought up the issue of gun control, because for the past 2 days, we, at least in the office, right, or in my circle, my friends are talking about gun control. So gun control versus our amendment number 2.
Right.
So where are we standing? Are we one more time or one more step convinced that we need to do it, or are we even stronger, holding a stronger fold that we should still keep on this freedom? So your take?
I very much value our right in Second Amendment right, and I respect it. I respect the people who are law-abiding citizens who respect that right as well. But I think all the polls and statistics show that the American people are very much in favor of gun safety laws that are common sense. I think there's a lot of rhetoric out there that scares people to think that common sense gun safety laws means that all their guns are going to be taken away from law-abiding citizens. I don't think that's the case.
No.
I think there are some reasonable steps that can be taken, just things like background checks, reasonable steps like that, and how you store your gun, because common sense shouldn't leave the room. I think that's very much a part of how we should look at that policy and take baby steps, at least, to having some sort of some laws in place that allow for more responsible gun control. But I think it's also important to say that that's not the one answer. There's no, I think, magic bullet, you know, no pun intended, that's going to really save us from all of this drama and tragedy that's unfolded. I think it's a very complicated issue. I think it's going to take a very comprehensive approach, and with a lot of different ideas towards a solution. But I think common sense gun control is a step in the right direction. And just because it might not solve all the problems doesn't mean we shouldn't do it at all.
Sure. Probably Scott will share your thought with me about that fact, because It sounds to me every time the gun control idea of gun control is brought up, and they take it as if we want to get rid of Amendment Number 2.
Right.
Which is not, according to him,
Yeah.
right? According to everybody, which is not. We would just like to do our things within the parameter.
That's right.
With more tightened rules, something like that.
Right.
Your take on that
Yeah,
area,
I don't
please?
think the Second Amendment prohibits regulation, reasonable regulation, and laws, safety.
And it says well-regulated militia.
Exactly.
What is the term? Militia. Militia. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't think regulation is a violation of the Second Amendment, and of course we have regulation as it is. I think people, are looking for tighter regulation, some forms of gun control. I don't know that you could say, well, with tighter gun control, this tragedy won't happen or could not happen. I think there's a lot of issues to think. One, even with a tight gun control law, could somebody who wants to do this get a gun and do it, or would they do it in some other method or manner? That's why, to me, it's not a gun control issue. It's what is the real reason people are doing this type of thing? Whether they use a gun or a pencil or a bomb or whatever. What are we doing? What are we doing as a society that is leading to this kind of activity, to this kind of hatred? Is there a different way to regulate, or is there some other action we could take?
That's also a very good thought. It looks that he is on our side, yet he kind of taken it another branch to look into it. Why people do this hilarious things. I mean, kind of like, found no reason, no logic, no nothing.
Right.
So, my dear audience, today is a the very precious moment. I got the chance to have two wonderful attorneys visiting me to talk. If we use the moment to talk about the news issue, that we're just wasting everybody's time. We're talking about the law size of the thing.
Right.
See what can laws do, right? With me today is my good friend, Mr. Scott Wilmoth, wonderful attorney, and also another wonderful attorney, Justin Rodriguez. They both have brilliant brains, 10 times larger than I am. But in this regard, I'm kind of 1%. Okay, so we'll be right back, please.